Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're on an absolute mission to completely demystify the science of attraction. For the longest time, right, we've been told that being attractive is basically just about winning the genetic lottery. You know the drill. You either have it or you don't. We're kind of led to believe that romance is this super elusive game reserved for a lucky few who just happen to be born with perfect bone structure. But as we're going to see today, the actual data tells a vastly different story. Turns out, attraction is way less about innate physical features and so much more about entirely controllable behaviors, really subtle environmental cues, and this totally fascinating hidden psychology. Seriously, understanding this stuff can literally change how you navigate every single interaction.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To make sense of all these complex psychological facts, we've broken our journey down into 5 easy-to-digest areas. 1. The halo of beauty. 2. Taking control of attraction. 3. Subconscious and sensory triggers. 4. The environment of attraction. And finally, number 5, chemistry and shifting thresholds.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the halo of beauty. Before we get into the stuff we can actually change, we kind of have to acknowledge the societal elephant in the room here. There is, undeniably, a built-in advantage to physical attractiveness in our society.
So, in our culture, there's this really powerful psychological tendency known as the beauty bias. Because of this little quirk in our brains, we automatically assume attractive people are just more intelligent, more confident, and more successful. And we do this before they even speak a single word. This leads to incredibly tangible real-world advantages. I mean, we're talking about getting more job offers and literally making more money. Crazy, right? And this baseline for our first impressions, it's super heavily influenced by the media. We're constantly bombarded by models, actors, and celebrities, and we subconsciously measure the everyday strangers we meet against these hyper-curated, honestly pretty unrealistic standards of modern romance. We naturally just have a weak spot for people we find attractive. We want to like them, and we desperately want them to like us back. It sets a really powerful baseline.
But now, let's aggressively pivot to Section 2, taking control of attraction. Because here is the absolute best news. The most impactful traits in the dating world are actually entirely in your own hands.
Look, while you obviously can't change your height or your bone structure, we're naturally stuck with those baseline genetics, the most profoundly impactful elements of attraction are completely under your control. Attractive faces and bodies come in all shapes and sizes. The real reason we find people magnetic is heavily tied to things you can manage every single day: your health and fitness, your grooming habits, and the deliberate style choices you make when you get dressed. But attraction goes way beyond just the physical. It relies heavily on bold communication. You know how so many people try to play hard to get? They act super aloof, pretending they just don't care, thinking it creates this cool air of mystery? Well, psychologically speaking, projecting disinterest actually just pushes potential partners away. The most attractive people do the exact opposite. They use really confident body language, they send incredibly clear messages, and they boldly express their wants and needs.
A perfect and kind of funny example of this control is what researchers call the hair limit. On average, the data shows that men with stubble rate significantly higher in attractiveness than men who are totally clean-shaven. A little bit of scruff goes a really long way. However, there's a very steep drop-off here. Growing a wizard-length, full, bushy beard actually tanks your chances, putting you right at the absolute bottom of the attractiveness scale. So guys, the data suggests you absolutely shouldn't be afraid to grow out that facial hair. Just, make sure you keep it well-groomed, short, and clean to really maximize its appeal.
And this level of control extends right down to our facial expressions, specifically how often we smile. Research from the American Psychological Association found a really fascinating contrast in how smiles are perceived. Women are overwhelmingly viewed as highly attractive when they smile frequently. It signals this inviting warmth, positivity, and deep confidence. But surprisingly, the exact opposite is true for men. Women actually perceive men as more attractive when they smile sparingly. They tend to prefer a more brooding personality type, kind of like those reserved, stoic characters you constantly see in action movies. Now, the takeaway here isn't to walk around faking your expressions all day, but just to realize that whether you're grinning or frowning, your face is constantly broadcasting volumes about your personality to everyone around you.
Which brings us to Section 3, subconscious and sensory triggers. Beyond the traits we can actively see and manage, there are these hidden quirks and sensory inputs that our brains use to measure attraction, and it's often happening without us even realizing it.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how simple, almost invisible triggers completely bypass our conscious thought. First off, consider the impact of wearing the color red. It's the universal, symbolic color of love, right? Well, people who wear red are consistently rated as more attractive than those wearing literally any other color, because it subconsciously communicates bold, daring romance. Then, think about how attraction involves all five senses. By leveraging a unique personal scent, you can trigger massive waves of comfort and desire in a potential partner before you even say hello. And finally, pay close attention to vocal pitch. A fascinating study from 2010 showed that when men and women are flirting with someone they genuinely like, their vocal register naturally drops lower. And get this, we don't even know we're doing it.
But it gets even weirder. Have you ever wondered why we so often fall for people who kind of look like us? Think about how many times you look at your own face in the mirror every single day. Your features are the ones you are most used to seeing, hands down. And because of this deep-seated familiarity, we naturally pursue partners who share our own qualities. We're talking everything from having a similar fashion sense all the way down to literal physical features like hair and eye color. You essentially judge the attractiveness of others based on your own attractiveness and what you see staring back at you in the mirror every morning.
Let's move on to Section 4, the environment of attraction. We're shifting focus here from your personal traits to how your surroundings and your immediate social context can completely alter romantic perceptions. Consider how your everyday surroundings play a massive role in sparking a connection. A 2014 study found that just having background music playing significantly increases both physical and emotional connection during a conversation. The music basically sets an underlying atmosphere that actually makes you appear as a more attractive option. Then there's the sheer power of familiarity. The more familiar someone feels, the closer you feel to them. So if you see someone regularly, say working at your favorite local coffee shop or gym, your attraction to them can grow stronger and stronger over time, simply because your brain is used to their presence. And finally, think about popularity. If you're at a crowded party and you're constantly being fawned over by others, people watching from across the room will subconsciously measure that attention. Because others find you engaging, onlookers will automatically find you more attractive too. It's like social proof for dating.
And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Chemistry and Shifting Thresholds. Here, we're bringing it all home by examining how deep interpersonal relationships and our current dating status fundamentally rewrite the rules of attraction.
So, is romantic chemistry just magic? Is it just some invisible spark that you either catch like lightning in a bottle or you don't? Not at all. Chemistry is actually deep emotional rapport. It's a complicated, layered social relationship built upon getting to know someone on a much deeper level. The absolute best way to build that so-called magic chemistry is simply through genuine conversation. Just being yourself, making jokes, and creating a mutual understanding over time. When you really have chemistry with someone, it's almost like you and your partner are having two conversations at the exact same time. One on the surface, and a secret, totally unspoken one happening right below it.
So the crucial point here is how this chemistry fundamentally impacts our standards. When you're single, your threshold for attraction is usually pretty low and broad. You're naturally open to a wide range of people and personalities, because honestly, you're still actively figuring out what really makes you happy. But the moment you get into a committed relationship, your internal threshold shifts dramatically. It becomes incredibly high and narrow, because you already have a partner fulfilling your emotional needs. Your preferences elevate. You no longer find the exact same broad range of people quite as attractive as you did when you were flying solo. Your brain effectively protects your current bond by raising the bar.
I really want to leave you with this powerful thought. Your appearance is yours to control. The overarching narrative we've uncovered today is just incredibly empowering, don't you think? Attraction is not a static trait. It's not purely genetic, and it is certainly not a lottery you're just hoping to win. It is highly malleable and heavily influenced by the daily habits you cultivate, the environments you place yourself in, and the deep, meaningful rapport you build with others.
So, I want to challenge you. What is the one small variable you're going to change on your very next date? Are you going to add a subtle splash of red to your wardrobe? Will you make sure there's some background music playing to set the right atmosphere? The science of attraction is happening all around us, in every interaction, every single day. The real question is, how will you use it? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep exploring the science behind the everyday.